Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. I'm Marco D'Angelo, joined in studio with Scott Spreitzer and Bryan Leonard. We're going to break down a big one in college football for Saturday. It's not the big one. We'll have that one a little bit later, but we're going to have the Apple Cup on Friday. We got Washington at Washington State. Guys, it's been a long time since these two have played for something as meaningful as what we've got on the line Friday. It's the North Division of the Pac-12. Guys, looking at this one, rivalry week, it's always a different handicap. And when you got something on the line like this, do you guys do anything different when your preparation for this game? I'll start with you, Scott.
As far as a rivalry game, I really don't, unless it's just been one of those situations where the line is, one of those, like if Washington State, let's say, for instance, this was the one game that could, make their season, which of course it can. But I'm talking about, let's say they're 3-8, 3-9, they've had a bad season. This is the one game they can actually sink their teeth into and maybe have a little feather in their cap if they win it. And Washington's laying 20, 17, somewhere in that neighborhood. That's the kind of rivalry I'll look to take the underdog. But in this particular game, as you mentioned, you got two quality teams. We had Jacob Thorpe on last week with us, Marco. Remember on Wager Talk Radio, the Washington State beat writer. And he called it. He said Colorado would beat this team by at least 6 points. But in this particular game, it's kind of like a handicap where I think I'm trying to decide between, is Wazoo good enough in the running game and in stopping the pass to hang with Washington? Because I don't believe that Washington is a top 4 or 5 team. Thought that way when they went into Utah, Bryan. I don't know about you. Thought that way when they played USC and we grabbed USC in that game. But it's a situation where Wazoo's going to have to be able to run the football.
Yeah, they definitely are. And you asked what we do in preparation of it. I think you have to take everything on an individual level. I mean, you take a look at the South Carolina-Clemson game. Now, that has a whole different meaning than this one does because South Carolina just wants to beat them. That's their own thing they got going on. Where both of these teams are going to be playing a few more games going on. And so the same intensity here, obviously it's going to be there because of the importance of this game and the importance of the rivalry, but you're not going to get two-way action on this one, whereas in some other games you only have one team that's got something to prove.
Now, last week we talked with the beat writer, Scott. Washington State, the game against Colorado, it was a big game. They wanted to win it, but it wasn't life and death. They could survive that one because it was going to come down to this one. So Colorado ended up winning the game by 2 scores. But if you watch that game, late in the third quarter, Washington State actually had the lead, and Colorado pulled away late. Colorado was able to dominate the game on the ground. They had a physical running game that Washington State just couldn't stop. You look at Washington in this game, and they are very balanced offensively. This team runs the football well, and they throw the football. For me, I'm just concerned about the Washington State defense. We know what they can do offensively, but do you guys think they have the defense to slow Washington down?
They give up 410 yards per game, right around 410 yards per game, about 80 yards more per game than the Husky defense allows. And that's what worries me if you're going to back Washington State at this number. If it was over 7.5, 8, I'd be looking like crazy to take the Cougars, Bryan. But at this particular number, being at 6, I think it's Washington. I think it's a fair price. And I think one of the keys to this game is going to be the fact that I don't believe Washington State can slow down Washington's multi-dimensional offense, being able to run and pass effectively for the entire 4 quarters. I think it's a very fair number if you like Washington. The reason it's not a big play for me, the reason it's not going to be on my card, for instance, at Wager Talk, is again because I think it's a situation where while Washington has the defensive athletes to harass Washington State, and Washington State doesn't have the athletes like Washington faced last week against USC, I still don't trust this team being a little bit overvalued week in, week out, even off the USC win. So I think the number of 6 is fair, but I think it's right where it should be.
Yeah, you mentioned yards per game and everything. Keep in mind, Washington has had a big lead in 2 of these games. I had Arizona State last week. There's no way I should have covered that game. Washington had a huge lead at the half, took the air out of the ball. Same thing happened when they played earlier this year. They had like a 35-0 lead. Same thing happened. So when you go back and you check at the end of the season, yards for, yards against, keep in mind some of these teams just take the air out of the ball, and it's just a veteran coach that's had a great history with Boise State, and here it's hard to go against him.
All right, so mild votes for both you guys on Washington here.
Opinion on steroids, I guess you could call it. I like it a little bit more than opinion, but it's not going to make my call.
Oh, I thought you had an opinion on steroids. I like the under here. The last 8 times they played, the game ended up with less points than what this current line is. I like Washington overall. I think they're the better team. I don't know if I want to lay this number, but I think under is the way to go in this game.
All right, I'll be the tiebreaker. I lean to Washington as well. I just think the offense is too dynamic, diversified for Washington State to stay with them. We'll go with them. Hey guys, it's Thanksgiving weekend, and we've got some special deals for you going at WagerTalk this week. First off, every week you hear us talk about the Weekend All Access. Well, this is a great week for it, Thursday through Monday. There's football every day. This is the best weekend of the season, guys. You got all that football on Friday, Thursday, Thanksgiving games. But instead of $69 for the Weekend All Access, you can get it for just $39 this week. That's our way of saying thank you for another great year at WagerTalk. And Friday, Black Friday, we're going to do an even better deal for you. Any pick package on Friday, single pick package, is going to be just $5 on Black Friday. Now, there's one exception. If anybody has a 6% game of the year on Friday, those packages will not be $5. They will be normal price. But every other pick package at WagerTalk on Friday, just $5 on Black Friday. Check it out at WagerTalk.com. We're going to be back with more. We're going to head to the NFL next here at WagerTalk.